The Smite Pro League. The Smite Pro League is a beautiful thing, and it's been about 2 years since we last had Smite Pro League to watch. I know we have Smite Prime and stuff now, but it's just not the same. So I was feeling a little nostalgic, and I decided to go back and look in time every single World Championships in Smite's history. And I was thinking to myself, while I was doing that, why don't I try to pay attention to the history of a certain god? I've been recently playing a lot of Fenrir in Smite 2. I was thinking, why don't I look at every single time Fenrir was picked or banned in Smite history, at least when it comes to World Championships. I'm not going to be looking at regular season stuff or any lands outside of Worlds, because I don't want to work on this video for 700 years. You know, I eventually do want to make it. So I just looked at all of the World Championships. I watched every single game, pick and ban phase, to see if there was any Fenrir, and if there was, then I would watch the whole game to see how they did on it. Fenrir is a physical assassin. He's a Norse god. He's a doggy. He's pretty cool. He's got some lore with, like, Tyr biting his hand off or whatever. I don't know any of that stuff. I just play the game. I never really liked Fenrir personally until Smite 2, to be honest. He's always been a super iconic god to me, but I never really cared for Fenrir. I never picked him. And I think when we're watching these games, we're gonna kind of find out why. I'm a jungler, and we'll kind of get into why I never really cared about this god. With all that being said, let's start with Season 1 Worlds, the first ever World Championship. Now, back in Season 1, a lot of gods like Serket, Thor, and Bakasura were really heavily prioritized, so we didn't really see Fenrir for a few rounds until Nifang, I believe is how you say this guy's name, for OMG picked Fenrir for the first time in the tournament, and he didn't do very well. He actually got diffed pretty hard. Casters were saying it was to counter Divios, who has been known, at least in the regular season, to play Fenrir in the solo lane. That was a relatively strong pick for him, but it was not a pick that he really spammed, so I didn't really understand the trying to counter him with it. But Divios was the next person to pick Fenrir, and he had a pretty good game on it. He was kind of the best person on the team in a game that was just losing. They weren't able to keep it going, and he never picked Finn again. That was the last time Fenrir was picked in Season 1 World Championships. It was only picked twice. It was banned one time. It had a 13% pick ban rate by regionals. That's going to kind of be a theme also. I'm not going to mention every time Fenrir's banned, because he kind of stays a consistent ban. I would say he's banned a few times every World Championship, even if he doesn't show up. Season 2 Worlds is kind of when we get to the peak of Fenrir, in my opinion, as a jungler at least. We'll get into when Fenrir gets his peak in terms of how many times he gets picked. Season 2 is where Fenrir hits his peak as a jungler. Although it kind of starts with the same story that we were saying with Season 1, where gods like Serket and Thor were being picked a lot more often, and now that Hunbass was being a popular pick, he was getting picked way more often than Fenrir ever was. Although in the semifinals, Adapting does pick Fenrir, revealing that it has a 2% pick and ban rate, while having a 100% win rate thanks to Adapting. He uses Fenrir to completely diff Barracuda's team and ruin his chances at making it to a consecutive World Championships in what was, in my opinion, the greatest Smite set ever played. Casters and Zap even said that they did not understand this Fenrir pick, but after Adapting picked Fenrir, he did not lose a single game. He picked Fenrir twice in a row. He didn't pick it again. It ended up getting banned for the rest of the tournament, basically. Was not allowed to play the god again, but he did pick it, and he had great success on it. Every single time Adapting picked Fenrir, he dominated in the jungle. He was only picked a couple times, but we will never forget that Fenrir game. You can find, there's other videos talking specifically about those two Fenrir games. It's something that every jungler aspires to have. It was the set that made me fall in love with Smite. and I definitely think you should go and watch semifinals of Season 2 World Championships. Don't watch the finals, it's boring. 3-0, easy game, easy life, but watch the semis for sure. But that's all for Season 2 Worlds. Season 3 Worlds is kind of the same story, however, he did get banned in most every game that I watched. He was banned very often, but this was most likely because of tankier assassins being more meta now than they were in the past 2 seasons. Gods like Ratatasker, Camazotz, and Thor were extremely popular here. Even Captain Twig was playing Nike jungle, and Captain Twig, speaking of, was the first person to pick Fenrir to clinch out Game 5 against Eager. He had a great game on it. Adapting then plays it after and destroys Barracuda's chances of winning again. You can watch the documentary that they did about Barracuda and Jeff Inla from Season 2 and 3. I think they talk about a little bit of Season 1 in there too, but you can see his face when he's like, adapting did it again. But the same god, we let him have it again.
Adapting just beat me down with Fenrir. Again, I'm like, the same god again. I'm gonna have to deal with this at some point.
But yes, Adapting did pick Fenrir to stop everyone's favorite ADC from making it to another Worlds. He picked it twice before Cloud9 was forced to ban it. And Obey also did the same thing. They banned away Fenrir for their final set until Game 4 of the finals, where Twig did steal it away. Captain Twig stole the Fenrir away and did not have a good game on it. It did not look good. He was just not able to keep up with the pace. And that was the last time we saw the dog get played at all in Season 3 Worlds. So you're seeing kind of a pattern here. He gets picked a couple games. He gets banned pretty often. At least this in Season 3, he got banned relatively often. But it seems like gods like Thor, Ratatasker, Camazotz already are taking more precedent. Even gods like Serket, who can get played in multiple different roles, are taking a lot more precedent over Fenrir. And I think that's just kind of going to be the story for Fenrir for the rest of time. However, in Season 4, it did not look any better for Fenrir because a new god, Ravana, was a lot more popular. He was being picked in the jungle a lot more often, which took a lot more eyes off of Fenrir compared to last year. Serket was even picked a lot more. Say hello to my cat. Serket was even picked a lot more. It just wasn't looking good for Fenrir at the start of Season 4 Worlds, although he did finally get picked by Scream with 5 M's in a slow but dominating game over the Black Dragons. It was very clinical. It was great. One of the greatest players to ever touch the jungle role. One of the greatest players to ever live. Kind of showed why he is that. Adapting then goes back to Fenrir in Game 5 against Rival, and despite being off to a slow start, was having a really good game, but just couldn't keep up with Ice Ice Baby and maybe his greatest season ever, back when he would pick that iconic Dodgy and just kind of roll everybody. Adapting was also a victim of that. Scream then tries to do what Adapting just did and picks Fenrir in the finals against Ice Ice and does not have a great time. Although he would end up winning finals anyways, he did not pick Fenrir again for the rest of the tournament, so that's it. Scream picks it twice, Adapting picks it once, and that's the end of Season 4 Worlds. It was banned a little bit. I think there was like 2 or 3 games where it was banned, but it seemed like gods like Camazotz and Ratatasker were much more important to team comps this year. And I can only imagine that that's going to become more prevalent over time. Now, getting into Season 5, I started playing the game in Season 2. But I got good at the game, at least relatively so, around Season 5. And I remember Fenrir being in almost every single ranked game that I played. But I didn't remember it like this. Fenrir was extremely popular this year. He was played a lot. But not necessarily as a jungler. Support Fenrir made a super big rise this year. He was played in the first set by Trix Tanks in a Dignitas win against Barracuda Space Station Gaming team. Raffer then picks it in the second game of the event, and regardless of having a good game himself, he could not lead his team to a win. Zaelia then picks it in the next game in solo lane, and it's the same story here. He has a good game, But Splice in Season 5 was just different. You couldn't stop Splice in Season 5. It was tough. Neil Ma then picks Fenrir again in the support role in Trifecta's first game against E United. He had such a good game, it was then immediately banned game 2 and 3. We then had to wait until Aurora eventually pulled out Fenrir against Dignitas, and he did great on it. Trixtank then picks it. I think it was to take it away, although we did see him play it earlier. But he did not perform as well as Aurora had on it. So they decided that it was overall just better to ban it for the remainder of the set. Neil would then pick Fenrir again when Trifecta had to face Rival. He would lose that game as they went down 2-0. He was not discouraged and would pick it again, but just couldn't get the ball rolling despite not really having bad games either game. Aurora then went back to the Fenrir pick in game 3 of the championships, and he had a pretty good game on it, again looking like a great comfort pick for him. He consistently picked it, and he had great games every single time. He would pick it again, and didn't have as great of a game, but he didn't care as he would pick it again in Game 5, picking it 3 times in a row, where he had a great game and would become the world champion on Fenrir. I believe was the first person to become world champion thanks to a game that they played Fenrir, other than Adapting. Adapting didn't play it in the finals though, so Aurora's the first one to become a world champion Fenrir. Season 5 was insane for support Fenrir. Hopefully though, for me as a jungler, I want to see more jungle Fenrir picked. But it was really cool to see how much people were playing Fenrir. I was afraid that power creep would kind of take Fenrir out of the game at this point in time, but I guess this was, 5-6 years ago, so it hadn't really hit super hard yet. I'm just hoping power creep doesn't completely delete Fenrir. It's also important to mention that in Season 5, he was banned or picked in every single game that I watched. Just about every game. I think there might have been 1 or 2 games where he wasn't banned. Even with how good Season 5 looked, Season 6 was a bit of a step back. And to me, I think it was because Horus was kind of taking away that role that Fenrir wanted to play, being a bruiser setup support. Horus, when he came out, he took over the world. One of my favorite gods in Smite history, and you could see that he kind of was doing what Fenrir wanted to do. And gods in the jungle like Daji, Achilles, Thor, and Pele were kind of taking spotlight away from Fenrir as being a pure damage dealer that was tanky enough to survive in team fights. Serket, of course, was still being played here. Honestly, I think I might need to talk about that god next, because this whole experiment made me realize that Serket just gets picked every game, no matter what. Like, for years, it's kind of crazy. I never really realized how prevalent this god was. Neil Ma, though, does pick Fenrir support in Game 1 of the semifinals for SK Gaming versus Renegades, and kind of showed everyone why Horus was being prioritized over it, having a pretty rough game with the dog, and what would be a loss in the last time Fenrir was locked in this season. He didn't really have a great showing. As soon as he gets picked, he plays into a Horus, kind of shows why Horus is the better god. So that's it for Season 6. After having a very prominent Season 5, he only gets picked once in Season 6. He did get banned a few times from my recollection, but he gets picked once in a loss to a god that's kind of taking his role over. Season 7 Worlds, if I had to guess, Fenrir was going to fall even more out of favor here now that there are even more bruiser picks that are taking over the game, like Camazotz, Cthulhu, Kukulkan becoming even more popular. However, after sitting there and watching every single game, Fenrir is finally picked by Polar Bear Mike, one of the best Fenrir players to ever touch the game. He had a great game, but couldn't clutch it out for his team. They were all kind of just struggling. PK was just on a different fucking level in this year. I guess we should go over that in Season 5. Splice won the World Championships. Season 6, it was SK Gaming. I hadn't been mentioning who has won Worlds every time, but I mean, everybody knows. If you're watching this video and you don't know who won Worlds every year, I mean, I don't know what you're here for. I don't know. PBM did pick Fenrir again in Game 3 and was a large part to why they were able to take that game. Lightning strikes twice as he picks it again in Game 4 to take the set to Game 5. I can't believe they didn't ban it after the first time that he picked it. He looked great on the pick as soon as he touched it. They did eventually learn and ban it Game 5, which I believe is a large reason why PK became the world champions in Season 7. It felt kind of nice to see a little bit of Fenrir. Of course, it was back in the support role, which I don't really care for. But I was afraid that we weren't going to see any more Fenrir, and I've watched these finals many times. This is my favorite season to watch, you know, to go back and watch again. And I didn't remember the Fenrir, even though it played a large part in why that set was so great. Going into Season 8, I can only assume that Fenrir was going to get picked even less throughout the years. I mean, maybe I'll see PBM go back to it. There's no way that it becomes a priority pick again. I think it's kind of over for Fenrir going into it. Although, he was picked by Rapio in the first game of the first round. This is also, I believe, when we start getting into the placement tournament that they do prior to Worlds, which I am going to count for this because it's basically the same thing as a last chance qualifier type thing. So I believe that it does count for this. Although maybe, you know, maybe if I'm counting this, I should count like lands and stuff, but I don't have all day. Come on now. It's in the playlist for Season 8, 9, and 10 Worlds, so I'm counting all those games. Rapio did pick it in the first game of the tournament and did not find any success, sadly. I think that Rapio is a great player. He's cool to watch, but he just wasn't able to make it happen with the doggy. Cuvo Fred, my second favorite jungler maybe ever, him or Scream, picked it against the Scarabs and went insane. He was going crazy, leading to a win. However, they let Cuvo get it again, where he had a okay game, but he lost, leading the series to a Game 5 where Solo or Troll took Fenrir to the solo lane in order for them to win it. Ice Ice Baby then picks Fenrir into Lasbra and the Bolts, and gets diffed pretty hard by Lasbra, sadly, not having any success on the god in that game, although the Bolts did ban it out for the rest of the set. And it is kind of nice to mention that Fenrir has been banned relatively often throughout every season, even Season 7, where he wasn't really picked. He did get banned relatively often, I assume for support, but, you know, it's nice to see these junglers start to pick him up again, and they did ban him for the junglers relatively often this year. Lasbro was the next player to pick Fenrir, and he had a very solid game against the Dragons as he and the Bolts try to claw back down 2-1. The Jade Dragons then ban it away just to lose the next game. Lasbro then picks it again in Game 5 and just couldn't close it out, having a pretty disappointing game. Cuvo then picks Fenrir again against the Winter Dogs, and despite not much action, has a pretty good game on it. Cuvo actually continued to go back to the Fenrir against the Scarabs in a losing Game 1. Rongyu is actually the next player to pick Fenrir, not doing so until the placement matches were over and we were in the final bracket. He had a pretty good game on it as well, leading to the Levi's beating the Bolts 3-0. Aurora 2 picks the Fenrir support to some success, using it to take a game off of the Scarabs 3 games in a row. I can't believe they didn't ban it. Aurora looked too comfortable on it. Rongyu picked Fenrir again in Game 3 of Levi's versus the Kings. He had a fine game, but couldn't win it. Aurora followed in his footsteps, picking Fenrir in Game 1 of the finals, losing a slow-paced game. He also decides to go back to it in Game 2 and pick Fenrir again. To be honest, it just looked like the Titans couldn't hang with the Leviathans, but that would be the last time Fenrir is picked. I was kind of surprised that Fenrir had a little bit of a resurgence here. It was nice to see. Season 9, I feel like because of gods like Lancelot, Fenrir will just stop being played altogether. I feel like the tanky gods that exist in the jungle are becoming more mobile, and that's going to make Fenrir just not picked. But we'll see how it goes. Prior to Season 9, I had taken about a year or two break from Smite. I personally don't remember Fenrir being picked that much at the time, but adapting Fenrir does show up again and does well, winning a game against the Valkyries. He did so well that they banned it for the remainder of their set. Sanford Soccer ended up picking the Fenrir as well for what I believe is the first time that he's picked it in Smite World Championship history, just to lose to the Oni Warriors. Adapting would again pick Fenrir in the quarterfinals against the Kings and had a great game where his team just couldn't make it happen. One of those classic jungle games where you're doing well, but your team just couldn't keep going. Johnny saw this and decided to do the exact same thing, picking Fenrir and having a great game for himself, but his team was just not able to convert that into a win. This was the last time Fenrir was picked in the tournament, and it seemed like he just couldn't keep up with the team fight ability of the more popular high-burst junglers that were more often picked over Fenrir this year. There were gods like Ratatoskr, who was picked, Wheelix, Thor, Camazotz were picked a lot more, Lancelot. Gods that were able to burst people down 100-0 while being relatively safe and mobile just had a lot more precedent this year over Fenrir, and that's why he didn't really show up at all. Season 10, the final season of the Smite Pro League, would kind of be more of the same. Gods like Rat, Thor, Camazotz, Susano were picked way more often. Even Wheelix showed up a few times, which is weird to me. But I guess I don't know, I didn't watch much SWC at this time. But Amon, Brigitte, and Gilgamesh were also priority here, as Fenrir was not picked a single time in the Smite World Championships. He did kind of get, I think he got banned once, and then he got banned a couple times in Season 9, but he kind of fell off of the face of the earth after what was admittedly a surprising and impressive Season 8. So it's kind of funny going back and looking at the history of one of Smite's most iconic, in my opinion, gods, Fenrir, having a quiet but still pretty cool Season 1, a quiet but iconic Season 2, same for Season 3, very iconic, but not really ever picked that much until we get into Season 5, where it felt like you had to get rid of Fenrir or else you were just giving them too strong of support. And that's kind of what I took away from this whole experience. You know, in my head, before I did this, Fenrir is a jungler. He's a jungler first and a support second. Now, after watching this, all of these games, I've watched every single game, I will never look at Fenrir the same. He is a support. He gets played in solo sometimes, and jungle is his second most popular role, but this is a support god that just happens to be an assassin. It kind of shifted the way that I saw him. I was never a big Fenrir player, so I didn't really have much experience on the god. Although I have been playing him a lot in Smite 2, which kind of gets me excited for whenever Pro League comes back for Smite 2. I wonder where we're going to see Fenrir played most. He now has that aspect that people try to play in support. I don't really like it. I don't think it's that great. And again, I don't really think Fenrir is that great of a jungler right now. I think he's pretty decent, but there are a lot of better junglers in Smite 2 right now. But I mean, that's the main reason why I decided not to do any Smite Prime stuff or the Smite 2 Founders Tournament, because the Smite 1 story is over, and the Smite 2 story is just now getting started. I don't really want to sully the experience that the whole story is going to be once we're able to tell it. This is the first time I've ever done a sit-down video like this, so if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, tell me what character to do next, tell me how I can make it better. Do I need to talk more about individual sets and give more credence into the times that the gods are picked? Or do you like that I kind of skim over, tell you if they're having a good game or a bad game, and we move on to the next time that they're picked? I don't know. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I just kind of really wanted to do it. I've been thinking about it for a little while and decided to give it a try. I don't have a pop filter on this microphone because my cat took it away and decided to play with it, and I can't find it, so the audio might sound a little fucked, but I don't know. But I think to sum up Fenrir's role in Smite Pro play, obviously it didn't go over any regular season stuff. You know, anything could happen in the regular season, but Fenrir was always a solid pick in Smite, played a lot more in support, but he was always solid in whatever role he was being played. Power creep was never kind to Fenrir. He always felt like 1 or 2 steps behind the new gods that were coming out trying to do what he already does. Seems to still kind of be the case here in Smite 2, but only time is going to tell. I think Fenrir is a very fun god, and he's kind of had a little weird like meta shift since Smite 2 already, with the auto attack, Braggies, Harp, Tierfing stuff, and now people are going like a tank build on him, like tank bruiser build on him. But I kind of prefer the high ability damage with 2 relics. That build is a lot stronger in my opinion. But I mean, time will only tell. Maybe Fenrir is going to be a very popular god in the first season of Smite 2. I hope we get the first season of Smite 2 very soon. I left this experiment loving Fenrir more than I could have imagined, which makes me excited to do this again with other gods. Whoever you guys want me to do it with, we'll try. I'm a jungler, so I have much more to say about junglers, but I would be open to do a mid laner or an ADC or maybe even a player. We could do a player. I didn't really think about that, but that would be really cool. But I think that's going to do it for me here. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe. Keep playing Smite. It's a great game.